Have you ever felt trapped in a friendship that drains you, wondering if it's worth holding on to? I've been there, grappling with a 30-year bond that turned from comforting to burdensome. In this video, I share my raw, personal journey of breaking free from a toxic friendship with my friend Sarah, who went from a trusted confidant to someone who spread my secrets and made hurtful comparisons. If you've ever questioned whether a long-time relationship is still serving you, this story will resonate deeply. You need to watch until the end because this isn't just about ending a friendship, it's about reclaiming your life. I'll walk you through the emotional roller coaster of letting go, the surprising emptiness that followed, and the powerful lessons I learned about building a fulfilling life on my terms. You'll discover practical steps to achieve financial stability, like cutting unnecessary expenses and exploring side gigs, and why prioritizing health, through simple walks and better eating, can transform your outlook. Most importantly, I'll share how rediscovering hobbies, like calligraphy, brought joy and new connections without the weight of toxic ties. This video is your guide to recognizing relationships that no longer serve you and finding the courage to prioritize yourself. By the end, you'll have actionable insights to live confidently, whether alone or surrounded by the right people. Don't miss out. Watch now to start your journey to a freer, happier you. If you are not subscribed, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support means a lot to me, and if you enjoyed this video, you can help me continue spreading the valuable lessons by liking and sharing it. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. After that day, meeting with my longtime friend became a heavy weight on my heart. I found myself dreading our conversations, feeling more drained than uplifted. But could I just walk away from a friendship that had lasted over 30 years? 30 years is a lifetime of memories, laughs, and shared struggles. Surely, I was just being too sensitive, maybe overthinking everything? We had been through so much together. The holidays, birthdays, and even tough times like family illnesses. How could I just let all of that go? Then, one afternoon, everything shifted in a way I never expected. My phone rang. It was Emily. I'd known her since college, and for decades she'd been one of my closest friends. But lately, things have felt different. "Hey, I'm in a bit of a bind right now," she said hesitantly. "Could you maybe lend me some money? I'm tangled up in some stock trouble, but I'll get it back soon, I promise." Her voice was casual but urgent, and my heart sank. Money had always been a tricky subject between us. Over the years, she had brought it up more times than I could count, usually needing a loan or asking for favors that came with a price. But Emily was my friend. 30 years of friendship wasn't something I could just toss aside easily. I wanted to help. Yet, I couldn't forget the last time I'd lent money to a friend. It was years ago, and I never saw a dime back. My finances were tighter than they used to be. So I carefully said, "Emily, I wish I could help, but I'm really not in a good place financially either right now." Her sigh came through the phone like a sharp knife. "Come on," she said. "We've been friends forever. You can't just lend me a little? Don't you remember all the times I helped you?" That hit me hard. It felt like a cold slap. Was I just her ATM? Was this friendship nothing more than a series of transactions? I felt my stomach twist in a knot. And then, just days later, something even worse happened. Another friend called me out of the blue, sounding uncomfortable. "Hey, I heard you've been upset about your kids lately. We were talking about it. You give them way too much. It's no wonder they don't appreciate it." I froze. My struggles, the things I had shared in confidence, were suddenly the topic of gossip. "Who said that?" I asked, shocked. "Who else?" came the answer. "Emily, your best friend." That was the moment I felt utterly betrayed. The friend I had trusted with my deepest feelings was now sharing them like gossip around a bar table. A 30-year friend treating me like that? Was this carelessness or cruelty? After that, Emily kept reaching out. "Hey, you free tomorrow? Let's go to the farmer's market. I've got a party this weekend. Can you drive me? Can you cover my tab? I'm short on cash." Each request chipped away at my patience and goodwill. At first, I tried to tell myself, she needs my help. It's okay to give a little. But the truth settled in slowly and painfully. This wasn't a balanced friendship anymore. It was one-sided. I was the one constantly giving, sacrificing my time, energy, and money. That's when I faced a hard question. Should I keep this friendship going? After 30 years, was it worth continuing a relationship that left me feeling drained and used? That night, I made a decision that changed everything. I resolved to break free from the ties that made me uncomfortable, even if it meant cutting off someone I once called a close friend. From then on, I started avoiding Emily's calls. I stopped returning texts and found excuses to skip get-togethers. But cutting off a 30-year friendship wasn't simple. Every day I wrestled with doubt. She's an old friend. Am I being too sensitive? Maybe I'm overreacting. Then, the moment that made it all clear came unexpectedly. We met at our usual cafe, a place filled with decades of memories. As we sat down, Emily let out a heavy sigh. You know I've been struggling, right? Why have you been so hard to reach lately? I forced a smile, feeling awkward. I've just been busy, I said, hoping she'd accept that and drop the subject. But she didn't. With a smirk, she said, Busy with what? Your kids are grown up, and you're living alone. Are you avoiding me because you think I'm gonna ask for money again? My head spun. Did she think I was dodging her over money? Flustered, I said, No, it's not like that. I've just had a lot on my mind. She gave a bitter smile and said, You always try to do everything by yourself. That's why your kids turned out the way they did. My heart sank at her words. I've been traveling with my grandkids. My kids are so supportive. They helped me out financially and even bought me a house. Your kids don't do that, she sneered. What was all your hard work for, then? I had heard those words from her countless times before, usually brushed off as her way of bragging. But that day, her words cut deeper than ever. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. I had devoted my entire life to my children, sacrificing my happiness, my desires, and even small comforts like nice clothes or a good meal. I saved every penny to give them opportunities one never had. And now, here I was, being judged for it. My kids gave me allowances and helped me buy a house, I said quietly. But yours don't. Those words echoed in my mind, haunting me long after I left the cafe. Why was everything I had done taken for granted? Why was all my sacrifice, raising my kids, working tirelessly, putting their needs before my own, seen as somehow lacking in her eyes? The weight of those questions pressed down on me, making my heart sink deeper and my fingertips grow cold. To Emily, was I just some forgotten figure, neglected by my children, someone who had given everything and received nothing in return? I felt foolish. Foolish for trusting her, for opening up and seeking comfort in a friendship that was supposed to be a safe place. But the truth hit me hard. She wasn't really on my side. I wasn't getting support or understanding. Instead, I was met with judgment, comparisons, and disregard. It was painful, but it was clear. I needed to walk away. And yet, Emily didn't stop there. A few days later, she called again, her voice laced with false sweetness. You know, you've changed lately, she said. You used to listen to me, no matter what. But now, you're keeping your distance. Was it my asking for a loan that upset you so much? I was speechless. She didn't even try to understand how I felt. The hurt, the betrayal, the exhaustion. I forced a smile and said, I've just had a lot on my mind. Her smirk was sharper than ever. You're going to end up lonely in your old age, she sneered. Cutting off a friend over a loan request? That's pretty narrow-minded. At that moment, something inside me snapped. All my pent-up emotions burst through, and I realized this wasn't a friendship worth holding on to any longer. Quietly standing up, I looked her in the eye and said my final words, You're right, friends are important. But if this is what a friend looks like, I don't need one anymore. And just like that, a 30-year friendship was over. Strangely, I didn't feel the relief I expected. I thought cutting ties would make me feel free and lighter. Instead, When I got home and sat alone in my quiet house, a hollow emptiness settled in my chest. It wasn't that my life had become empty. There were still neighbors who waved hello, acquaintances who checked in now and then, but something felt heavy as if a cloud had hung itself over my thoughts. I kept wondering, what kind of relationships had I been living with all these years? I had always believed that as you grow older, your relationships grow stronger. When I was younger, I was too busy to nurture friendships properly, but I was sure that time would deepen those old connections and make them richer. Looking back now, I see how wrong I was. Most of my friendships in my younger days were born out of necessity. Work colleagues, parents from school events, distant relatives. We kept in touch because we needed each other, not necessarily because we truly connected. But life changed, and as the years went by, many of those ties faded away naturally. I retired. My kids grew up and moved out. The relationships that no longer served me slowly disappeared. The people I was left with were fewer and fewer. I began to ask myself, will I be lonely without that person? Who will be there when things get tough? Honestly, most people around me weren't my people. After the breakup with Emily, I found myself reevaluating every relationship I had. I realized I'd spent so much time and energy trying to keep things going, always reaching out first to avoid awkwardness, trying not to be the bad guy, enduring uncomfortable situations just to keep a connection alive. I kept telling myself, they're old friends. If I just endure, it'll be fine. Everyone's busy. And I pushed down my true feelings, hiding the hurt and frustration deep inside. But I knew something had to change. One day, on a quiet afternoon, I stopped by a little cafe near my house. I was sitting there alone, sipping on a hot cup of coffee, trying to collect my thoughts, when suddenly, I heard a familiar voice. "Oh, hey. Fancy meeting you here." I looked up and saw Lisa, a woman I'd met a handful of times at a neighborhood book club and community events. Lisa and I greeted each other warmly as if no time had passed since the last time we met. We settled into the cozy corner of the cafe, each with a steaming cup of coffee in hand. "How have you been?" I asked, genuinely curious. She smiled brightly and began sharing light-hearted updates about her life. Stories about her kids heading off to college, her recent struggles and triumphs with health, and the little happenings around our neighborhood. There was a calm ease to her words, a relaxed warmth that I hadn't felt in a long time. Oddly enough, this conversation wasn't a burden. It was refreshing. "Time does fly, doesn't it?" I said, smiling. We were so caught up raising kids for years, and now we can just sit back and enjoy a simple coffee like this. I nodded to myself, thinking, when was the last time I'd had such a relaxed, pressure-free chat? No judgment, no hidden agendas, no need to watch my words or force smiles. Feeling cautious but hopeful, I finally shared, "Lately, I've been thinking a lot about relationships. They're so complicated. What makes a relationship meaningful?" Lisa took a slow sip of her coffee and replied softly, "You're right to think about that. But you know what? The people who truly value you stay in your life without effort. Those relationships that feel natural, easy, and mutual, those are the ones worth holding on to." Her words settled over me like a bomb. For years, I'd been working hard to keep my friendships alive, often more effort for others than for myself. It suddenly became clear that the relationships that had left me drained, that made me compare myself constantly, or that turned my private stories into gossip, those were the ones I needed to let go of. Why had I let those voices and doubts control me? Why had I let myself be swayed by people who didn't truly care? In contrast, the comfortable relationships, the ones that lifted me and left me feeling energized and peaceful, that was what mattered. As I left the cafe that afternoon, I felt a new sense of freedom. I promised myself I would only keep those people in my life who made me feel good and who respected and valued me. That decision felt liberating in a way I hadn't expected. I realized that being alone isn't scary at all. What's scary is clinging to relationships that drain you. As I began to let go of those unhealthy ties, I also started to notice how much of my own life I'd neglected. How much energy I'd spent worrying about who to meet, what to say, and holding on to relationships out of obligation or fear. But what about caring for myself? Now, I knew it was time to live for me. So, What did I need to live confidently and happily on my own? First and foremost, financial stability. There's an old saying that hit me hard: without money, you end up watching your kids' moods. When you're younger, you might think you can earn and give for your family endlessly. But as you get older, with a fixed income and a body that isn't as strong as it once was, financial insecurity creeps in. I noticed that people who were financially secure in retirement seemed to live freer lives, less stress, and more independence. Whereas those who struggled financially often faced wounds in relationships, dependency, and anxiety. So, I started rethinking what financial independence really meant for me. It wasn't about greed or accumulating wealth, but about having enough control over my own money to live without relying on others. Next, I looked into small sources of income. Nowadays, you can do a lot with just a smartphone. I began selling in used items around my house: old books, kitchen gadgets, and even small pieces of furniture. I doubted anyone would be interested, but to my surprise, many things sold quickly. It helped clear my clutter and put a little extra cash in my pocket. I also explored side gigs related to my interests. Writing had always been a passion of mine, so I started a blog, sharing stories and insights. Others in my circle used their skills in knitting, crafts, or baking to earn some income. Even the small amounts I earned gave me a sense of control and confidence that I hadn't felt in years. Another important step was managing my retirement funds and investments carefully. I reviewed my Social Security benefits, making sure I understood what I was entitled to, and looked for ways to supplement any gaps. Checking on my 401k and any personal pensions, and choosing safe investment options, like low-risk savings accounts or government-backed funds, became a priority. Keeping a close eye on these ensured that my money worked for me, providing security I could count on. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. By cutting unnecessary expenses, finding creative ways to earn, and actively managing my pensions, I started building a more independent and confident retirement. But money alone isn't everything. The second pillar of a good life, I realized, is health. Because no amount of money means anything if you don't have your health. As the years went by, I came to a powerful realization. My body truly is my greatest wealth. Without it, nothing else really matters. So, I decided to start small. I began by committing to a simple routine, walking for 30 minutes every day. At first, it was a lonely struggle. Walking alone felt tedious, and some days I didn't feel motivated. That's when I discovered a local walking group that met every morning at the nearby park. Joining them changed everything. Exercising with others made it easier to stay consistent, and the social aspect lifted my spirits. We shared stories, encouraged each other, and even celebrated small milestones together. This sense of community became a vital support system for me. People who cared not only about fitness but about each other's well-being. Along with moving more, I started paying closer attention to what I ate. I used to be careless about meals, grabbing whatever was quick or convenient. But now, I prioritized nourishing my body. I cut back on overeating and focused on meals rich in protein, fresh vegetables, and whole grains. I swapped out greasy, spicy, and sugary foods for seasonal fruits, nuts, and home-cooked dishes. The changes weren't drastic, but over time, I felt lighter and more energetic, and noticed my digestion improved significantly. The most important shift was committing to regular health checkups. I used to only visit the doctor when I was sick or had a crisis. Now, I schedule annual physicals and keep a close eye on key markers like blood pressure, blood sugar, and cholesterol levels. Early detection and prevention have become my priorities because I know how critical it is to catch things before they turn serious, especially as we get older. Financial stability and good health are the foundation of living independently. But I realized something was still missing, something to fill my heart and soul. Even with money and health, loneliness can drain the joy from life. What's the answer? Finding what I truly love doing. When I was younger, I was so busy trying to survive, juggling work and family, that I never made time for myself. But now, it was time to change that. I decided to revisit some old interests and explore new ones. Some people travel, pick up musical instruments, or start writing. I wasn't sure where to begin, so I decided to experiment without pressure. I signed up for a calligraphy class at the local community center, something I'd always admired but never tried. At first, I doubted I had the patience or skill for it. But as I carefully crafted each letter, I found unexpected joy in the process. There was a peacefulness in focusing on the moment without worrying about perfection. It felt like reclaiming my own time. Others found happiness in different ways: photography, gardening, volunteering at shelters or libraries. I realized that age isn't a barrier to new experiences. I just hadn't permitted myself to try. Hobbies are more than just ways to pass the time. They enrich our lives and keep our minds and spirits active. They can also spark new relationships. Sharing interests creates deeper, more meaningful connections. I joined group activities like book clubs and started sharing photos and stories on social media, connecting with people who shared my passions. What once felt like lonely, quiet time became rich and fulfilling. You don't have to find the perfect hobby. You just have to start something new. With financial stability, good health, and fulfilling activities, I finally felt ready to live confidently and happily on my own. Thank you so much for watching and listening to my story. I hope by sharing my journey of breaking free from a draining friendship, finding financial independence, prioritizing health, and rediscovering joy through new passions, you found something meaningful for yourself. Now, I want to hear from you. What is one thing you've learned from this video that you plan to bring into your own life? Maybe it's setting boundaries in relationships, starting a new hobby, or taking steps toward financial stability. Whatever it is, please share it in the comments below. Your insight might inspire someone else too. If you like this video, please leave your comment, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Your support means the world to me and helps us continue creating content that truly matters. Remember, living confidently and happily starts with you. Take that first step today.